Hello, everyone, and welcome to our KaiNexus Training Team Office Hours webinar episode 27. My name is Adam Darnell, and I am the Training and Enablement Manager here at KaiNexus. And of course, I'm joined by my colleague, Product Manager Ryan Rippey.
Hey there, Adam, and hello to my fellow KaiNexians. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Ryan. So for those of us new to our webinar series, welcome aboard. The way this works is we plan to take the next 30 or so minutes to dive into a KaiNexus topic that we're going to share with you all in just a bit. The purpose of these, of course, is for us to review the hottest topics, the latest and greatest features suggested by you, our customers. So before I reveal our topic for today, let's just go over some housekeeping items. The first being the webinar is being recorded, so we'll go ahead and send out the slides and recording to everyone after the webinar. And if you do have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those in the chat box that we see here. We'll do our best to answer those questions in real time, as well as at the very end of the webinar if there's some time left over. So with all that being said, let's take a look at our webinar topic for today. The basics and beyond.
That's right, Adam. We're going back to basics today. For some of you out there, this may be new material, and for others, think of today's walkthrough as a nice little refresher of KaiNexus.
Absolutely, Ryan. So let's go ahead and take a look at our agenda for today. So we'll be starting with our KaiNexus overview. Then we'll be getting into workflows, creating an item, working within that item, and then finally landing on boards and cards overview. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our KaiNexus instance. So starting off with the very basics, when logging into your KaiNexus account, you're going to be taken to your default board. At first glance, we notice that the platform is broken down into these three key areas. We have the advanced toolbar that I just popped out from the left-hand side here. We have your board in the center of the screen, whether it's your default or current board. And then we have the simple header toolbar at the top of the screen. Now, to cycle back and touch on everything that the advanced toolbar offers, we see the lists section. Lists basically offer a way to visualize a list of specific items, as well as details of those items in KaiNexus. So when looking at a list of items in the list section, you're going to actually have the ability to edit the filters and really drill down on a more specific set of items. Going down, we have reports. So reports in KaiNexus really help you visualize and measure the health of your improvement culture. So there's reports dedicated to your organization's activity, engagement, and impact all within KaiNexus. Our calendar allows you to visualize start and due dates of the items that are existing in your KaiNexus instance. The people section, you can simply view a list of other users currently in KaiNexus as well. And then the admin section, which really allows you to build out the infrastructure of your KaiNexus instance. Now, as a note, depending on your role and your permissions, some of these may appear and some may not in your instance.
The other thing I'm going to mention, Adam, is right now when you logged in, usually for brand new users that do have access to that advanced toolbar, this is the default view for them, and you're just giving up so much real estate on the screen.
You really are.
So if you come down here, you'll see there's a little collapse option, which will go ahead and put this in the collapse view. There's also, if you want to maybe expand a board, there is this full screen mode, which is available as well. So just a little pro tip I wanted to throw in there.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the more real estate we can get, we'll take. So with all that being said, we're going to move up to the simple header toolbar at the top of the screen here. So starting with the profile settings at the top, Ryan was nice enough to let us use his instance today. So we're going to click on his name here, and we get this drop-down list. So we have the sign out option. Now I know, Ryan, you had some questions about what this does before we started. This basically allows the user to sign out of the system. So moving up, we have the support section. So this is a great resource for KaiNexus terminology and functionality. You can kind of think of it like a Google search of everything KaiNexus related. We have the feedback section. So this is more kind of ticket based. You can report bugs, suggest improvements, platform enhancements, everything like that. And then lastly, we have the user profile. So let me hop in there. And from here, you kind of get a pulse on your username, email, your network location and role, and your current status. I can use my ellipse menu to edit my profile, change password, change my profile picture, and update my notification settings. We also have this handy view activity button. So this allows you to get a view on your personal metrics, your impact, and any improvement work that you're working on in the system. Hopping out of the user profile section, we'll move into down the line of our simple header toolbar into notifications. Now, if you were present in last week's webinar or our previous webinar, we took a deep dive into notifications. But for today, we'll hop in here. It's really good practice when logging into KaiNexus to kind of jump right to this notification bell. Now, there's also, let me note that there's two types of notifications that are generated from KaiNexus. There's email notifications, which will be sent to the email address tied to your KaiNexus account. And there's the ones we see here. These are in-app notifications. So we see that we have a few updates on any of the items that I'm working on, and they're denoted by their icons. So I have the flag icon. So these are notifications that I've received due to my association with the item. We have the bell icon due to my notification preference, and then we have any updates since the last time I viewed an item. These normally are tied to comments or anything new in that area. I can filter these, so I can show by newest first or oldest first, just simply by toggling this, and I can clear out any of these notifications simply by choosing the X icon or the clear button at the bottom. So I'll clear a few of these out, and we'll move on down the simple header toolbar. So moving into the search section, this is a smart search. It allows you to search for anything in the system. So if you know the name of what you're looking for, you can enter it in. If not, you can throw a few keywords in there, and it's going to pull up the items by relevance in this case. So let me go ahead and type in team here, just as an example search, and it immediately pulls up a few improvements, a task, and a project within the system. Now, as you can imagine, the more improvement work that gets added to KaiNexus, the longer this list of results is going to be. So these toggling options at the top really let you drill down. So let's say in this case, I'm looking to only see improvements in the system. I can simply hover over improvements and select the only button. This really lets me comb through and get to exactly what I'm looking for in the system. I also have the option to use our advanced filter as well when searching. So a lot of power within the search bar alone as you're combing through the system. And then our last stop on this simple header toolbar, once we're actually ready to create a new workflow, such as a project, improvement, or task, we can simply click on this big green create button. And I'm going to hand it off to Ryan to touch on those.
Thank you so much, Adam. So you brought up some terminology in KaiNexus around projects, improvements, tasks. We also have charts in KaiNexus. So I want to talk a little bit about what these workflows are and what's really the best practice on taking advantage of them in the system. So we're going to start at the very top level here where we see projects. Projects are represented with the folder icon, as we can see here in KaiNexus. Projects are often used for larger scope improvement efforts, typically more top-down driven, maybe a longer or ongoing initiative that's being worked on, as well as having a multidisciplinary team. Common examples that we see with projects definitely include A3s, breaking up your DMAIC and PDSA processes within a project works pretty well. Projects in KaiNexus can nest any of those other workflows that we see here in the dropdown. So essentially, you could have a project with improvements that roll up to a project. You can have a project with other sub-projects within that project, task charts. This is often how strategy deployment is displayed and worked on in KaiNexus, is through that nesting type of structure. With improvements we see here are represented with the light bulb icon in KaiNexus. Now these are typically more bottom-up driven, going to be used for smaller scope improvement efforts. A lot of examples that I see with these in KaiNexus include improvements which may be labeled as OIs, opportunity for improvement, quick wins, just do it's, things of that nature. With improvements, the nesting structure is a little bit different. You can have tasks and charts that roll up to an improvement. However, you can't have a project that rolls up to an improvement. You also wouldn't be able to nest one improvement within another improvement. So there's a little bit of restriction around there in KaiNexus. Typically, when you're working with improvements, you're going to be measuring impact once the work has been finished on the improvement. So we'll take a look at what that looks like here later in our walkthrough. So again, just want to point out that the biggest difference with projects and improvements is that projects have that nesting component where they can nest any of those other workflows, while improvements would only be able to nest a task or a chart, for example, within them. Then we come to the task workflow. So tasks are represented with a task list or a little hamburger looking icon here. I'm probably just saying that because it's lunchtime where we are in Austin and I'm getting hungry. These are simply the to-do items on a project or an improvement. So when you want to break up one of those workflows into smaller units of work, be able to assign those out and quickly work on those items, you'll go ahead and use that task workflow. And then last but not least, depending on how much you are tracking KPIs in KaiNexus, you may or not be heavy users of the chart workflow. So charts, as I said, they're a way to capture, measure KPIs, key performance indicators. As I hover over the charts here, we can see that we have a number of options that you can work with, including simple bar line graphs. We have control charts. So control charts just recently made the jump to the main screen here this year.
New faces around charts.
One of our favorite chart types. We
Absolutely.
did a webinar earlier this year with Mr. Mark Graven on that. We have threshold charts, bowling charts, and then finally Pareto charts that are also available in KaiNexus. So as we continue with our walkthrough today, I think we're going to go ahead and jump into the creation of an improvement. So I'm going to flip things back over to you, Adam.
Excellent, thank you so much. So with all of those new workflows talked about, let's go into really the life cycle of these items. So I'm going to go ahead and create an improvement in the system. So at this point we've logged into our KaiNexus account, I've checked out my notifications, I've done a little searching in the system. Now I'm ready to create an item. So in this case, I'll choose improvement from the drop-down menu, and I get this create improvement screen. So right off the bat, we notice various fields. So something I want to note is, as we all know, KaiNexus is profoundly customizable. So your create screen of a given item could be as simple as title and description, or it could be something as robust as the one we see here. But in this case, we see a few different fields mixed between text fields where I can simply input any text that I want, and then a few of these drop-down menus, which are called attribute fields, and they'll give me options to choose from as I fill out my improvement. So starting with title, I'm going to go ahead and assign a title. And you want to make your title simple enough and digestible enough that it's easily readable and then also searchable in the system. So in this case, I want to schedule weekly huddle meetings for my team. Now we notice when I type the title in that this magnifying glass appears with the number 1 beside it. So this shows similar items in the system. So if you are titling an improvement, and if you're looking to prevent duplicates or maybe rename your title, you can use this magnifying glass icon. You can also click on it to get a list of those items that are similarly named. So just a note on that. So I'm going to keep making my way through this improvement and filling out my required fields. So just give this a description. I can add current state, maybe my proposed solution here. I can assign this an effort or impact score as well. So this is what I was talking about when we were talking about attribute drop-down menus. So say in this case, it's pretty low effort and it's going to impact my team. I have the option to choose a parent for this item as well. So if there's maybe a project that this item aligns with, that this improvement might nest into nicely, I can choose from a list of items that are able to house this from this parent section. I can make my improvement private if need be. I can also determine what status this item is going to start in. So for this example, I'm going to leave this one as new, but I also do have the option to mark it as planned, active, or defer the item as well. By default, I'm going to be the author of this as we're writing it right now, but I do have the option to add collaborators and/or followers. The main difference between the two is that collaborators are really going to be driving the resolution of this item. They're going to be kind of doing the work on the item, whereas followers, they'll be notified of any updates, but they really won't be interacting past that. You can think of them kind of in a more read-only state. And then it has my originating location as well. So all items are going to be tagged with a location when created. Lastly, I have a few options at the bottom before creating this item where I can save this as a draft. I can add files and/or links to my item. We'll have the option to do so later as well, but KaiNexus gives us that handy option just from the create screen alone. So now that I've filled out at least all of the required information, I'm going to go ahead and create my item. So KaiNexus gives us a success message in the system, and it gives us a useful direct link to the item and the option to create another item. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to select my direct link to the item. I'm then going to pass it back over to Ryan so he can kind of break down our item in this expanded view a little bit.
All right, Adam, let me break it down for you. So in this case, we are working with an improvement that we have set in a standard layout. This is how all of our what we call templates are initially in the system. We do have the ability to customize this, so this may or may not look familiar for some of you that are on the call today. A lot of configuration and customization options available in KaiNexus, of course. But really, when you're looking at an item, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be, I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's these 7 main panels that are going to be available for you to work with. And so the first that I want to start with is the details of the improvement. We noticed that a majority of this information had initially been seen on that create screen as Adam was going in and getting this improvement logged in KaiNexus. If we need to come in and make any edits to these details, any updates here, we can go ahead and click the little pencil icon here in the top right of the panel. And this is going to pull up a very similar window to what we saw when we were creating, where again, we can adjust our title, description. In this case, it looks like we have another field for waste that's popped up for us. So all of those fields and attributes will be available to be edited on the item in the details section. Once you've made a change, let's say, for example, I want to add in my current state, you'll just go ahead and click save and visualize those changes back on the work panel. Moving down from details, we're going to take a look at comments. This is probably everybody's favorite aspect of working within an item. So to leave a comment, and before I get into that, let's go over what comments are for everyone. This allows a channel for communication and collaboration within your project, improvement, task, whatever workflow you happen to be working in. This allows you to record updates. You can ask and answer questions. Really, the thought here is let's help cut down on the number of calls, sticky notes, emails, maybe even eliminate having to wait for a meeting to take action on something. So to leave a comment, you'll simply just click into the leave a comment text box here. This is my comment. And once you've entered in that comment, you'll have the ability to post the comment, which will send a little in-app notification to all the members of our team. You also have the ability to select this email now checkbox, which would pull up a list of team members that you could send the comment as an email, or maybe even someone outside of the team that you wanted to send the comment as an email. You have the ability to do that as well. And if you're asking yourselves, well, can I respond to that comment from the email? The answer is yes. And you know what, Adam? I'm going to show off a little feature in here too. I'm going to say, this is my comment. You have the ability to mention other KaiNexus users. So if I wanted to come in here and say this to Adam, I'll just go ahead and, where are you in the system, Adam? You're not in here?
I'm hiding on you.
Why are you hiding? All right, you know, there you are.
There we go.
So I can go ahead and select Adam here. And then when I post this, this will also send him a unique notification since he's been mentioned on the comment.
I look forward to my notification. That's right.
So moving down from the comments, we have our timeline. The timeline is an audit trail that keeps track of everything happening within your item. So who did what, when they did it. You can always come back and cross-reference any update that's been made in the timeline. Now, we mentioned, you know, working with a project, you might be working on that project for a really long time. And so over the course of time, there's probably going to be a lot of edits that have been made to that project. If you need to filter down on the timeline and find very specific timeline entries, definitely take advantage of the search timeline option here in the top right. This is another keyword search where it'll go ahead and update based off of the keyword that you go ahead and enter in there. So it'll help you filter down in your timeline. I'm going to actually work my way up on the right-hand side from the bottom up here. So I'm going to start with links. Adam talked briefly about links and files being available when creating an item. You can always add links or files once you're on the item itself. Links here, if I go ahead and click add link, two types of linkage in KaiNexus. The first is a simple web link. So maybe there is a website that pertains to the item you're working on. For organizations that are utilizing Google Drive, if you want to put a Google Doc or a Google Sheet link in here for people to work off of, you can do so. The other type of link you can do in KaiNexus is an item link. And so if I just toggle over to item, what this is going to do is allow me to search for and link another item that's in KaiNexus. So maybe there's a similar improvement that's being worked on in a different department, and I want to be able to visualize that there is a relationship between those items, be able to kind of hop back and forth and see how those items are progressing. The linking of items in KaiNexus is another option you can take advantage of. Files section, pretty straightforward. Going ahead and attaching any documentation here. This could be a Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, or Excel file. Could be a PDF that you want to go ahead and drop right in there. Clicking add file will pull up the files on your computer. There's also the drag and drop ability that you can use there. So anything along that nature will be acceptable in the file section. Maybe you want to add a screenshot, an image or something, you name it. Then we get into our dates and team. So dates, pretty self-explanatory. Every item is going to have a number of system dates that relates to it. You'll have when the item was created, when it may have been assigned, the start and due date for the item. Once it's completed, that'll show up there as well. Number of other options in terms of dates and how you're working through items. You always have the last updated date. So just a way to capture all of that information there on the dates panel. And then last but not least is our team. So this is where we can take a look at the members of the team. Currently, if you'll notice in the top left, we are in this blue new status. And so what that means is that we have yet to put together a team or any dates on this item, right? And so if you kind of follow the blue in KaiNexus, you'll notice that whether we were to click on that new status picker, or from the team section, you see this option to assign. So in this case, let's get this out of that new status. Let's go ahead and assign this out in KaiNexus. So here on this assign improvement window, we start with identifying who's going to be responsible for working on this item. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and make myself responsible for it. Once I've chosen that responsible person, who will be a KaiNexus user, of course, in the system, I am going to determine my start and due date. So you'll see by default it makes today the start date. If I click on the little calendar, I can choose a start date in the future, or maybe I'm putting this in late and I've already started on this. I'll have the ability to select that start date as well as include the due date of when I expect to finish work on this. couple of quick options here at the bottom. If you want to quickly say, hey, you know what, I want to finish this in the next month, you can just choose that 30 days and it'll go ahead and plop that date in there for you. Leave a comment. Let's say that I was assigning this to Adam. And if I need to give Adam a little bit more context, I can type in a comment so that when he gets that in-app notification, he'll also see the message that I've included on it as well. Adam, you talked a little bit about collaborators and followers. So again, this is another window where we can go ahead and populate those. Anybody who's going to be working on this with me, in this case, I can add as a collaborator. So maybe I want to go ahead and find you in the system, Adam, and add you as a collaborator here.
Works for me.
We can also add any followers who want to follow along. And now you'll notice that with the improvement, initially when we created this item, we had an originating location. Because I am assigning to myself, it's also now going to populate that responsible location with KaiNexus here. So we've got our team, we got our dates in place. Let's go ahead and assign this, and notice that once we've assigned this improvement out, a couple of things are going to jump out at us right away. We'll see that in the top left, the item has moved from a new to a green active status. And then quickly glancing back over at our team and date section, we'll notice that those are a little bit more fleshed out as well. We have a much bigger team. We have some new dates that are associated with the item. We are actively now working on this improvement. So Adam, what if I want to break this improvement up into smaller units of work? What sort of workflow would I might want to nest underneath this?
Yeah, I think there's a few things we need to get done before we schedule these weekly huddle meetings. So I think that's best suited for a task.
Beautiful. So let's go ahead. I'm going to click the plus sign in the top right here. I'm going to choose that task workflow. In this case, I could choose an existing task in the system and have that roll up, or let's go ahead and create a brand new task, and we'll keep it super simple. We'll do our title. We're going to cross-reference team calendars. We can add a description, percent complete. We'll see very similar look and feel as we had on the creation of the improvement. Now, Adam, when you had created the improvement, you put it into a new status, but you mentioned that if you wanted to just go ahead and assign that out initially from the creation, there's a couple of other status options here in the status and team section. So if I know that I want to go ahead and activate this task and start working on this today, I can choose activate, throw in a due date, maybe by the end of next week, make myself responsible for it, create it, and off we go. So before I click into that task, just coming back to our improvement here, if I scroll down, you'll notice underneath the comment section that now we have a new panel for those tasks. So we can see any tasks that are rolling up to this improvement. If I click into that task, you'll see that the layout is going to be very similar to what we saw on our improvement. We have all those same panels that we talked about. If you're ever forgetting, where you're at or what you're working in, just notice the icons in the top left. I'm in a task right now, right? You can even see that that task is nested under this improvement. And when I'm done working on this task, it's as simple as the click of a couple buttons. So I can come back to my active status picker and choose complete from the dropdown, or over in the date section, I can quickly complete this, add in a comment if needed, complete, and now this will move my task into a complete status, which will be represented with the color black. This signifies that work is completed on this particular item. Coming back to the improvement real quick, once we have finished working on the improvement, we're going to go and resolve that improvement. And so from the drop down active here, in this case, we're not going to be completing, but we're going to resolve, because what we've done for our improvement is we've set up some impact that we want to capture here. So in this case, I have my outcome, and then I'm going to also have a question of, did this result in change? So here, by selecting yes, is where we have the ability to capture impact. This could be a qualitative impact. Maybe it's resulted in a safety or satisfaction initiative. This can be a quantitative impact if we want to associate any sort of time savings, cost avoidance, or revenue generation. This is where all of that impact can be captured and eventually visualized on the reports in KaiNexus. So once you've selected those impacts, you can add specific amounts if needed. If you want to review this in the future, you can do so. If not, no worries. We'll fill out that quick waste category here as well. And then now we can go ahead and complete this improvement, send out the proper notifications to anybody that we'd like to. And then finally, our improvement will also be moving into that complete status. So that really wraps up kind of the summary of the item's lifecycle in KaiNexus. Adam demonstrated how to create. We went through working with the item, assigning the item, and then the final step, of course, was completing. So Adam, I feel like I've been talking too much. I'm gonna let you get back in here. And how can we now visualize all of our completed, active, new, like where's the best place that I can see these items to work with them in the system?
Yeah, fantastic question and fantastic overview as well. Kind of give us the pulse on really just working through an entire item. Now, of course, the items you guys might be working in might be a little bit longer form than what we just saw, but still good to see the life cycle nonetheless. So let me hop out of this improvement here, and we'll go back to the initial screen that we saw upon logging in, which is of course our board. So really the raw definition of a board in KaiNexus is a collection of cards that we see here, all of these boxes, with data inside of them. A collection of cards that shows information relevant to the logged in user. So here we are on a personal board. So I'm sure most of you in the audience are familiar with a board like this. When starting out, we do like to set customers up with something like this because it allows you to kind of jump in and immediately see the improvement work that you're involved with in the system. So touching on each of these cards that we see, we have my tasks. So this card shows any tasks in the system so that I, as Ryan in this case, am involved with or working on, essentially. This card is shown in detail view, so it allows me to quickly see important information about each item. So in this case, I get to see the status, the create date, and myself as the author in this case. Now I can click on any of these to get that detailed view that we were just looking at within the item. Moving over to this My Projects card, this card's showing projects that I'm on the team of within the system. Now we notice a difference between these two. This card is in tree view. So we notice these plus signs. So by clicking this, it actually allows me to view the item's nesting structure. So I can see any of these tasks and or improvements that are rolling into these larger scale products.
And one note here, Adam, is that working in this tree or even a list view, you can also customize the column options, right? So to be able to see other information there.
Yeah, great call out there. So by hovering over any of these column titles, we notice a little arrow appears. I can simply click this to edit my columns, and I get this screen where I can search for columns or use the drop down to add or remove any columns as needed.
And so what Adam just showed is actually this is just a one-time view. So if you wanted to quickly add or remove columns and take a look at those, to do a permanent change, if you have the ability to, you would go into the ellipse of the card.
Exactly.
And then in this case, you see that we're in tree view.
Yep.
So that little pencil icon, you would click on that, which would take you to a very similar view that we just saw, where you can configure the columns at that card view, as well as even an expanded view if you want to show a little bit more information.
Exactly, great point. So you can really get as granular as you want with the views of these cards and really just show the information that's going to reflect best. Moving on down to the My Charts card. So really any charts that I've created in the system will show up here along with a little mini chart thumbnail. And of course, I can expand this card or click on the chart itself to get a more detailed view. And lastly, we have My Improvements. So this allows me to quickly view how my improvement work is progressing by showing each of the status in the system. So we have, of course, the new status. So submitted, but not been assigned out yet, as we went over. We have the plan status, so it has a assigned but not a start date yet. So it's been assigned out, or we maybe have a start date in the future. We have the active status, where it's been assigned with due dates. We have overdue, of course. Hopefully we're not seeing too many of these, but it's been assigned with the due date that's already passed. Any with a resolution submitted, so maybe any impact types that require approval will show up here. And then of course, complete, where the work is done on the improvement.
And one thing I'll point out, Adam, is especially for that overdue column here in the Kanban view, one of the other things we like to coach on in KaiNexus is run to the red.
Yep.
You definitely want to address any of those overdue items and help get them back on track so there's not any bottlenecks in the system.
Absolutely. So that really covers what a board can look like in KaiNexus and kind of the common view of a personal board that we'll see.
Yeah, we've gone over a couple. In this case, we're looking at a bunch of item list cards in different views. We've touched on the statuses. Adam, I think that's everything we had on our agenda. I have a couple of questions that had come in through registration. It looks like we may have gotten one or two while we were demoing. Let's see what's popped up here. First, I got to figure out how to use your computer, man. Can you enter a task that is not improvement or project? Yes, that's a great question. So tasks don't necessarily need to roll up to a project or improvement. If you would like to have what would be considered a standalone task, maybe you just kind of want to track your to-doist items during the day and create simple tasks for yourself on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. You can absolutely use that task workflow for that. Another question that I have here, Adam, is what if I need to update the details of a completed item? That's a good one.
Good question.
Let's go back into, let's find your, I guess we can go to our, oh man, I can't use your computer.
Here, I'll tag in here.
If we find either the completed task or the completed
Yeah, let's go back to that completed improvement down here. And I believe it was this one here. So the question was, what if I need to update the details of a completed item? So yeah, at this point, we've kind of completed it. We've said that the work is done, but now we want to hop back in and, maybe we want to add or, add an errata to our proposed solution or change the description. Maybe it's changed since the item's been completed. I can simply go to this status menu drop down and reopen my item. I'll provide my reason, or it's optional in this case, so for the sake of time, we'll simply just reopen the item, and it allows me to alter the due date as well. So I'll reopen my item here. And now I can hop back in and alter any of these details within my item.
As well as maybe you just want to continue working on this. Maybe the item wasn't completed and we actually want to put another month of work into it. You saw that you could edit that due date. Of course, myself and Adam are power users in the system, so we were able to make those edits on the completed item.
Right.
Reopening would give you the ability to go ahead and do that. Exactly. And then another question that we got, Adam, is can I reply to a comment? You want to take that one too?
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, we touched on when Ryan was going through kind of the life cycle of an item and using comments, we went into the comments section and he was able to mention me in a comment, and of course I'm going to receive that notification on my end. Now, if I want to reply or update Ryan at all on this, or in this case, we kind of did a switcheroo here where I reached out to Ryan and said, what's the timeline on this, on organizing our coffee area? So I can simply hover over my comment here and choose reply. So now as Ryan, I have the opportunity to just say, looking good. In this case, I get the same options as posting an initial comment, and I can post my comment. And that in turn will notify me on my end that Ryan has replied to my comment.
And one of the other things that we hadn't talked about, Adam, is that you'll notice here in the comment section, or when you go into the notification window and see a comment, you have the ability to like and acknowledge too, to just let people know that you've seen things, that you like things, just giving them a heads up there.
Yep, and that will also notify the user whether it's been liked or acknowledged, which is a great feature.
So got another question. There was a specific, I think it was an attribute field for percentage complete that we had on a task. That was simply an attribute. Let me try and get back in there. So let's add a task underneath this. So this percent complete here, this is actually an attribute dropdown where someone can come in and update the percent complete here, whether they feel that they are 50% done with what's being asked, 70, 90, or we can have this on the complete screen so that it is adjusted to 100% at that point. So in this case, we were using a attribute field to capture that percent complete on an item. All right, Adam, it looks like we answered all those questions. I know we're a little bit over, so I'm going to go ahead and take us out unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, that sounds good for me. We really appreciate the questions, guys, and yeah, you can go ahead and take us out, Rip.
All right, so thanks for the time today, everyone. We certainly hope these webinars are valuable, and we appreciate your feedback. Please reach out and let us know how you like these. To check out all of our past webinars, if you head over to kainexus.com/webinars/office-hours, you can go ahead and take a look at the other webinars we've done this year, some from last year, some from a while back, but all of these have amazing information that'll keep you up to speed and help you become a KaiNexpert, if you will. Definitely be sure to sign up for our next Training Team Office Hours webinar. That's going to be on March 12th, and we're going to be talking all about our recent 2.4.3 release that just came out. I guess that was last weekend.
Yeah.
Yep. So if you have any questions or need assistance with configuration of the features you saw here today, please reach out to your KaiNexus customer experience lead. In the meantime, we encourage you to definitely check out our support page as well at support.kainexus.com. This has been a great webinar, Adam. I feel like this was some valuable material.
Yeah, this really has. So thank you all again. And with all of that being said, I'm Adam Darnell. He's Ryan Rippey. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.